I need like 1 minute.
5 foot. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all. This is a call to order to a special meeting of the Policy and Personnel Committee. It's Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. It is 6 o'clock p.m. We're here at City Hall in the conference room 305, 45 Lion Terrace here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Here in attendance, it is board member Joseph Sokalovic. I don't see anybody on line right now. And also board member Albert Benningham. And we have many of the staff members here with us. And I'll have them, if they would like to introduce themselves real quick, I'll start with Ms. Cheryl.
Cheryl Vega, Director of SEL and Student Services.
Al Sagi, Assistant Superintendent.
Chris Weiss, Executive Director of School Leadership.
Marge Hughes, Executive Director of School Turnaround.
Don Costello, Chief Human Resource Officer.
Thank you. We have community leader Angel Resto also with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to start. I know that our city is going through a lot of trauma in this last few days, our community, and I would like to have a moment of silence, not only for the Dominican community that's dealing with some hardship, also the Wilbur Cross community. We lost a first grader, and also we have our very own Dyshawn Best that was lost, and with his family are dealing with his loss. And I know that's also part of he has a son that's part of the Ansonia community. He's in high school over there, one of the sons. So I would just like to start with a moment of silence in Jesus' name. Thank you. We thank everyone and for your continual prayer and support. I apologize to the public for those. And we also have board member, that Maritza?
Yes.
Maritza is online at this moment. Good evening, Miss Maritza. I apologize to the public. I don't have on the agenda today for the approval of the last week's meeting, but I'll put it on for the next meeting. So we'll start with line item number 1 is discussion and possible referral and possible approval to the full board of policies for the alcohol use, drug and tobacco. That is P 5131.1.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Medina, and good evening, everyone. Just wanted to bring some clarity and give some context to our last discussion on these two policies, the alcohol use, drugs and tobacco, as well as non-discrimination policy, and notice that went to the board for the first read. This was, I did some further research, actually based on Mr. Segovic's initial question. I wanted to give some context. All the policies that we are reviewing have been created by CABE. We actually contracted with CABE to get us current policies. All of these draft policies that we're currently going to be discussing are based on state statutes and are written with those statutes in mind. So with that said, I would have us be mindful about changing too much of the wording in the policies because, those wordings are intended to address the wording of the state statutes. And if you want to know which state statutes we're referencing, at the bottom of every policy we have, it does have the state statutes that reference those policies. So again, just for us to be mindful in terms of how much of the wording we actually change. Something else that we'll be doing, that if there are any changes in policies or any of the policies that we adopt at the board level, anything that requires any additional clarity or further discussion with staff, we incorporate that into our professional development plan for the remainder of the school year and going into next school year. If there are any policies that are new that we have to make sure that staff is aware of. So I did want to give sort of like that context. I know that when we last had our discussion, we went back and forth a few times about some of the wording within the these policies. So these policies as written was, the recommendation of the, people, which is CAVE, that we contracted with to help us write these policies. So, just wanted to give that context. So with all of that said, the two, policies that went ahead for the first read, are still here. There were some minor tweaks that were suggested when we went to the full board, was to come back here to the, policy committee to see what further, discussions we wanted to have on that. And again, just being mindful of the wording. We should be just mindful of how much of the wording we actually change. Any questions about these two policies?
My first question is just to identify, as I mentioned before, to Dr. Avery, and I'll elaborate for you guys is whenever there is something that's being revised, whether it's just even adding the word Bridgeport Public Schools, that's when it's presented either here in committee or to the full board, that we add that line as an additional by a different color or a line under it. That way we can save money on addition with color, do it black, underline, and anything that we're omitting for whatever reason, whether board approval or the left, then we'll put a line across it. That way we can identify, so that when it is transposed to our policies, it's clearly that we knew what it was before and what we agreed on should read the same.
And thank you for sharing that. Based on the feedback that you did, give us on that, you probably noticed that all of the policies that were uploaded recently for this meeting probably had something in red. Whether, to your point, whether it was Bridgeport, that came out in red, so that again, what was added. If anything was taken out, we use track changes. I think that's the word. So anything that we take out, anything that we add, does exactly what you were describing.
Not that anything was taken out. I just want to make sure everybody knows. So was there anything added besides Bridgeport Public Schools or any positions as far as line A, which is the alcohol use, drugs, tobacco?
So regarding those two policies, nothing has been added or taken away. I'll say just a discussion because, we began the initial discussion here. We took it to the board for the first read. We're going to bring it back here to see if we had any further questions about it before it goes back to the board for the second read. And I think a lot of the discussion at the board meeting was around some of the language. And that's why I wanted to get the context of us being mindful of changing too much of the language, because this language was written with the statute in mind.
Yes, when did we engage CAVE in a policy review?
I'll say, when, previous leadership was here was when that, initial conversation started. The exact date, I do not recall the exact date.
Yeah, but it was on prior leadership, prior to state intervention. We already recognized that we had policy issues that needed to be addressed.
Correct.
And furthermore, as far as the changes in the state statute, did we look at as far as the legality language around the federal and states illegal in the state of Connecticut? Did we ask anybody about that?
And I think, at least the clarity I was able to get, and I still would like to engage further with our attorneys, was that, the fact that this, this document is written in terms of students, that's why I think the term illegal was being used. It didn't reference because, most of our students, besides our students who are maybe a transition program, would be under the age of 21. So considering this was written with students in mind specifically, I think hence the word illegal.
So I can accept that. Mr. Larson, no, this.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge Andre Woodson is online with us. Good evening, Mr. Woodson. With being said, I would like to accept a motion to move item A. Oh, I don't see a hand, but thank you, Marissa. You have a hand. Oh, I see it now. You got it.
Thank you. I just had more so of a comment, not a question. My comment is, once we finalize these policies, can we translate them to Spanish and Portuguese for our bilingual parents?
I would definitely have that taken care of and make sure all of them, once we settle everything, they'll start working on it now to make sure that is. Thank you for bringing that up and I'll put that.
Yep.
Thank you. If there wasn't any questions or comments, we're on, item number 1A.
No, not at this time, Mr. Medina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Medina, if I could just add, like, figure about the point of adding Haitian Creole to the list of translations.
Yeah, that was a good catch. Thank you. I thought about it, but didn't say it. Agreed.
No, thank you, because any language that we already have, we should take advantage of it, but we were gonna look at those, but those are 4 that is very common in our district already. So we'll
Yeah.
make sure that, our staff handles that and we'll make a note of that, that way Dr. Avery and whoever gets in can manage that. Thank you.
Yeah, real quick,
Mr.
quick
Sakali?
follow-up on, Mr. Jimenez's, question. We're mandated to translate all the policies and all our documents into the dominant languages in the district.
I believe so, yes.
Yes. We should make that make sure we do that as a standard in case somebody forgets to bring it up, just a standard on everything that goes on, and anything, especially anything too.
And, you know, and through this process, we are going to be looking to update pretty much all of our policy through this process. So I think as we're updating it, then we'll just continue to translate once we get the final book.
So I'll take a motion for 1A, alcohol use and drugs and tobacco.
Motion to move to the full board, alcohol use, drugs and tobacco, including performance enhancing substances. P5131.6. Is that wrong? P5131.6.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? This will pass to the full board for approval. Next on the list is 1A, 1B is non-discrimination policy and notice, which is P0521, parentheses A.
And I'll say similar to what I shared with item 1A, will be the same for item 1B. And again, we should just be mindful of revising too much of the language. You know, we did a second and third read ourselves in terms of, and there wasn't anything out there that was glaring. So, you know, unless there are any other kind of clarifying questions, you know, I would also recommend this one bring back to the full board for a second read.
Questions?
That's the one we changed the name on, correct? Took out a name and left the title? Well, no.
Yes,
That's good, it is also HR, yeah.
yes.
Nothing clear.
I'll take a motion then on 1B, send it to the full board non-discrimination policy and notice P0521A.
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Hearing none, we'll move this forward to the full board. Thank you. Now we have on line number 2, discussion and possible approval to the full board of policies, and we have letters this time. So we have 7 policies for the public to know. What I have in front of me here are all the policies that came from CAVE. There's 23, there was 28 that were state mandates and also 22 recommendations that we do not have. These are the things that we're going to be moving forward and reading. As soon as we pass them, send them to the full board through this committee. They'll get approved and then it'll be on our portal for everyone to read. If anybody has any questions or suggestions, you guys can reach us. My number is online and most of us have emails online and phone numbers. So first, 2A is the FAFSA completion program, P6148B.
And Mr. Medina, I do have a request, if possible, if we can move item number F on the list to go first, and then the rest will follow the same order.
Thank you. Motion to change the agenda order, recognizing item 2F as next in the list, restorative practices, P5144.128.
Yes, I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Hearing none, we're gonna move, folks to line 2F. For purpose of scheduling, making sure that we respect everybody's time. That'll be restorative practices, P5144.12A.
Thank you.
Saki of you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Medina. I will start and then Dr. Fager will continue. So this is a required policy that we do not currently have. And just to give you a little bit about the policy talks about the purpose of the restorative approach to discipline, the general principles, policy guidelines. This policy also focuses on that are using a restorative approach to address challenging behaviors that are non-violent or criminal in nature. The forming goals of the restorative approach are relationship building, which is making sure that our school environments are environments where everyone feels safe, connected, supported in the place that they belong. The next goal will be accountability. So holding each member of the community accountable for challenging the behaviors. Everyone has to kind of take ownership of the challenging behaviors. Community safety, ensuring that all students have a role in repairing any harm that was done when challenging behaviors do occur. And then competency development. That's how we increase students' social emotional intelligence so they know how to better manage and engage with their emotions. The policy also gives the definition of various things such as challenging behaviors, restorative practices, school climate, social emotional learning, emotional intelligence, school community, school environment, general principles. There's also additional information on school discipline, some school rules and school interventions. So that's sort of like the big picture overview. I'm going to have Dr. Fager dive in a little bit deeper into this particular policy. And sorry, and you'll notice that the first few pages we gave you, so very often what I do like to do is just not give you the policy, but I give you the background as well. So you see the first few policy pages have some like the background of the and of what the policy.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yes, and I have the same questions through for all of them. So basically, one question is all titles, no names, right? And I read through them briefly already. When there's an A and B, why did we choose a particular sample over?
And you'll notice as we go through that, there'll be some where I say, I recommend we choose blank, and then the others where I say as a committee, we can discuss and figure out which one we need to
Just
cover.
so I get
A
a little more streamlined.
Yeah, and I think, some are wordier than others, and sometimes I like one that looks simple and plain, and so then I'll just say that looks, that looks like it'll fit better. So I think in certain sections, they give us options that we can choose from. And then other areas, the policy just as is. There you go.
So, restorative practices is really built on relationship building, even though it has the word restorative. We need to have a relationship first in order to restore something. So it is most of the time, 80% of the time, working on building positive relationships and building belonging and community. So that is the first part of this policy, is that we put time and effort in teaching our social emotional learning skills, along with peer mediation and conflict resolution, as well as self-reflection. So that would be the foundation of it. And then when things are, as they come up where things are perhaps not getting along, name calling, things like that, we have a conversation, we step in. It could be because we're even at the level of ISS, and so there's some sort of self-reflection there and some sort of mediation that goes on with the counselor there as well, where we're talking about not necessarily why did you do something, but what happened, what were you feeling, how was the other person feeling, how can we repair that relationship, and how do we then, which is the third part, re-enter the classroom. Because we're going to go back to that same community, or we're going to have lunch with that same student that we had an argument with at lunch. So we need to learn how to repair and reintegrate into the community. The student handbook and the code of conduct has actually taken this into consideration. We have put restorative options into the code of conduct and respect and responsibility for administrators and teachers to review as choices. And we are working on professional learning, the administrators and teachers now and in the future, so that we can practice and hone these skills of restorative practices. And this policy also calls for a district yearly review, which comes through the student handbook. And also what we've been doing through other subcommittees, looking at data of what our ISS, OSS, and expulsion looks at, like, and where could we be using more of these restorative practices instead.
Thank you, Dr. Fagan. So again, this policy is written with state statute in mind. I think as we go through the first read, second read, we just need to keep that in mind. That it's written in a specific format with the state statute in mind.
I have a question to kind of piggyback off of Joe. So I see like what he said, that it had that parentheses A there, and I see in my thing, I have all the way to letter, we actually go all the way into with this section, the 5144 goes into R 5144. So I want to make sure I'm of understanding clearly. So we're only doing parentheses A at this moment. That's what we had, you guys think, or is that a typo in this, agenda item as far as parentheses A?
Oh, so yes, so our agenda items, what was more of a typo, it should have covered all
Okay,
A through Z.
so P 5144.12.
Yeah.
Period, that should be it.
Yeah. Right.
It should be all important too, that's what I want to make sure.
Yes, and everything is in the form.
Yeah, no, I know that, but that's all I'm saying, wait, all of it's in the report, I know, so when he asked this question, why only A, I thought, wait a minute, no, it's the whole thing. So just for the public, I just want to make sure everybody's of understanding what we just discussed is that this restorative practice, it goes all the way from, the P 5144.12. It has, multiple layers to it, and we're doing all of those, and is again governed by state statute, which is actually here on reference, and it will be posted in our website for everyone to read, as it's moving to the full board for approval. And that's in 5144.12G. You'll see all the legal references. And in some of them, you'll also see that there's the policy when it was instituted, whether it was revised before. And I know this one was done in 2018 and was revised this year in March 2025. This is through K and their policy expert that go through policies for multiple districts around, and they just cover us to make sure that everything is under state policy, and this is one of them that is covered by all state policies. But there's no questions? One question, Judge?
Yes. As far as restorative practices, I just want to point out, we've been using restorative practices in the district for close to, I would say, a decade, or because when I started, I started with the ruler program, and it took off from there. So I don't want anybody to be confused, like thinking we're just discovering restorative practices exist, that the state's coming in and saying, you guys need to do restorative practice. We just don't have it codified.
Exactly. And actually, this is set to be required policy by July 2025.
Exactly.
Just to make sure the public knows, this is something that's now required for all boards as of July 2025.
So we are an early adopter that led the state on this issue. We just don't got it on paper,
Correct.
basically.
So now we have the
And,
law.
and that being said, I know we got some, okay, we're developing a policy, you guys are gonna develop procedures around this policy. Is a lot of that already codified in the code of conduct and in the policy is mostly us and, implementation portion is mostly admin, but that,
Conduct with the staff, different contracts.
and that gets developed afterwards. Do we have a lot of that in place already?
It is in the code of conduct,
Okay.
and so it'll be.
So they're just natural thing that some of us should work on.
Seeing no question, I'll take a motion to move to the full board, the restorative practices, P 5144.12 in its entirety.
So moved.
I second that. All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
wait, I'm sorry. I would like to withdraw my second. I would like to move this to the. No, withdraw my
Your motion.
Your second real quick.
I would-
Just-
If I may. I will remove my second for the record. And that, Mr. Sakala,
I would like to move restorative practices, P 5144.12 in its entirety to the full board with the recommendation that we waive the first read and the second read for immediate implementation.
so move. I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we'll move this forward to the full board and request for the bypass of, the first and second read, for approval for the full board. And before I move forward, I yield the floor to Dr. Shakusaki to make sure if there's anyone else that we want to move forward, or we can proceed. I want to make sure if there's anybody else. And we want to be public, that way, just want to respect everybody's time. So when there's somebody who has other obligations, whether with family or work, if they're here to speak present, I'd rather always have them speak first. That way they can move their part and they can be excused from the room because I don't want to hold anybody from their family, from work, or other things that they would like to do for the day. So that's why, thank you for doing that freely, asking me, because that's what we want to do. We want to be respectful of everyone's time and family. So is there anyone else? Good. So that hearing none from Dr. Saki, I'll go for 2A, which is the FAFSA completion program, and that is P 6148.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. Although we've had a big push on the FAFSA challenge, and if you want to share briefly on that, I'll let you back, we did have a big push on the FAFSA challenge. We don't currently have any kind of district policy of the FAFSA completion program. Dr. Vega has been working with high school teams on increasing our percentage of students completing the FAFSA, but there is no district policy regarding this. This policy gives an overview of the importance of students completing the FAFSA, and it also discusses Public Act 23-204. Which states that beginning with classes graduating in the year 2025, all graduating students must complete the FAFSA unless they have a signed waiver from a parent or a student who is 18 or older. The policy also gives suggestions of strategies that can help high schools ensure that they have 100% FAFSA completion rate or waiver. And we're going to have Dr. Vega just talk briefly about just the good news of some of the work we've done this year with our FAFSA challenges.
So, we've been working since September. We have a FAFSA task force that meets monthly. It is nonprofit organizations as well as, 3 of our high schools that are part of the FAFSA challenge for the state of Connecticut. Although our other, high school guidance counselors, school counselors are to come to meetings as well. We did hold in January on the day of service. We had the nonprofits as well as some of our chancellors come and hold an online FAFSA completion where we could put you into a breakout room so that you could ask questions privately with your completion of your form. So we have done that. Each of the schools have their own events, and the district, I just announced its FAFSA Spring Madness raffle. So all of the students who complete their FAFSA forms by the end of April will be entered into a raffle. And thanks to the wonderful partnerships that we do have here in Bridgeport, we've had things like Apple computers and AirPods donated so that everyone who has completed it will go into the raffle. So we're giving kids another month to work with their counselors and their parents because they're using to complete the FAFSA challenge.
And so, you know, like the figure was shared, and it's interesting because part of what the policy recommends in terms of how to get students completed is some of the work that we already started doing. So this won't be too much of a big lift, but come the graduating class of 2025, so this upcoming group, the goal is that we either have 100% of students completing the FAFSA or getting some kind of a waiver from a parent or any child who's over 18.
Could you talk to me a little bit about the waiver process? Because I know it's a state statute. Where that, but suppose that I'm Joe, my child, and I came here from London, England, overstayed our visa, not documented. How am I, my child protected in that waiver process?
When you say protected, are we,
As far as I'm in the country undocumented. I'm not filling out any government paperwork. Where they can find me and exclude me.
so I'll say that's probably some things that we would need to talk a bit more about if it's not clear or specified in this current sample. If it's not, it could be something that we can decide to add to it in terms of the wording. Or strategies.
So do we have we just got past the waiver process right now. Do we have latitude within creating that waiver process?
Yes, because they give us strategies of how to encourage students to complete it. And then they just let us know that, you know, they need to waiver saying that, you know, you're going to my parent or someone who's over 18. So I think we do have that flexibility to design that how we choose. Whether it's a matter of them just send us an email, or whether we have a standard form that we can send out as a waiver.
There's definitely things we can talk about because there are other options and I can look further into it and talk to the FAFSA completion committee about it. Because there's also ESCA, which is for students who are undocumented to fill out if they do want to go to college. There's also technical school forms. I don't remember the name of that. It's like CTE, I think, that you can also fill out. But some of the schools, they also have a third option that if you fill out what your plans are after high school, because not everyone maybe is going to college if it's a military situation or a potential school or if it's employment or entrepreneurship. I had somebody just call it for then we could add that to our conversation as well.
I'm good with that explanation as far as we just passed tonight. We're not passing any waiver process. We're just passing that we've got to construct a waiver. You're gonna look at those things.
And yeah, and that's something that we can most likely work on fairly quickly and get back to this committee in terms of what that can look like. Just get some feedback.
That's in addition to pushing this to forward tonight.
Yes.
Seeing no other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the FAFSA completion program policy P6148, waiving the first and second read for immediate implementation.
I second that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion carries. Discussion and possible approval to the full board policy gifted and talented students. Item B, P6172.1.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. This is also a mandated policy and also incorporated in this particular policy was some background information that gives an overview of the purpose of this policy. We do not currently have a gifted and talented students policy in the district. PA 21-199 requires local regional boards of education to develop policy for the equitable identification of gifted and talented students using multiple methods of identification with guidance provided by the State Department of Education. So this policy explains what gifted and talented students means, as well as outstanding talent in creative arts mean. So, students are not only gifted academically, they can also be gifted, through the arts.
Yep.
The policy talks about ways to support these students, including through differentiation of instruction. The policy discusses the identification process for students in grades K through 12. And CAVE has provided 2 versions of this policy for our review. Either version will work for us, but I would like us to consider the second version.
Where's that second version found within?
It's the last 2 pages.
Version 1 and 2 there.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Version 2.
I'm just going to add that here, that we want to make our motion, we're in version 2.
And like I said, either version would work. Version 2 just look, just more straightforward. Page. I would think that is needed within the policy.
Any questions, comments? Joe?
Yeah, again, we've had a gifted and talented program for quite a while in the district. It's by former director Selena Morgan, Dr. Selena Morgan, and it's been for years, and we've always had it. So we do have it in the district. It's not like we're just discovering it. It's just not codified. I do think maybe we need to have a better searching process, because in my opinion, gifted and talented is another special needs group that's not serviced properly. Everybody thinks special needs, they think shortcomings, but the shortcomings, if we're not educating these students to the level that they need, we're shortchanging these students. And this program is, especially now in the time of budget cuts, and we're looking at a very minuscule budget for the program itself as well. If we can get that under the special needs and get some grants and stuff for that, we can expand upon that program to the level that they got in other districts.
Yeah. I understand.
I guess that wasn't the question.
And sorry, I'll just agree that, and Mr. Skolbeck, that's, great point. This is not new to Bridgeport, like it's been happening, but what is new is the fact that it's now into policy, right? We've been doing it because it's best practice in the district, but now it's sort of like creating a policy to go behind it.
I just wanted to add on, what is exciting about it is that we're kind of doing a program overhaul, not only in looking at how we're recruiting kids, in the structure that we're doing our tag program, as well as our curriculum review. So we're looking at different locations. It's going to maximize location for students, and planning to rejuvenate it, if you will, for the school year 25, 26, 27. So planning year this year, I'm already in the generated planning year this year to be implemented in 26, 27.
Follow-up question, maybe, questions for the other policies I might have missed. Is there any cost of these policies, any increased costs to the districts? Implementation.
No.
Not for this policy.
So taking what we have and working with them.
Paul Payne, do we know the budget for the gifted and talented program?
Well, there's 2, or you stepped out, there's 2 versions, version 1 and 2. So they said that it's cleaner version 2. So when we do a motion, we're looking for version 2. So I would entertain a motion.
Motion to push to the full board, waiving the first and second reads, gifted and talented students. Policy P6 172.1 version 2 as presented this evening by Dr. Saki.
I second that. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any abstentions? Any noes, nays? Hearing none, motion moves, move this to the full board. Next on the agenda is item C, preschool special education, P 6171.2.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. This was a number mandated policy. We do not currently have a preschool special education policy. Obviously, we have preschool special education. We just don't have a policy that currently guides it. Our special education department has procedures that we follow to address our preschool special education students. This policy is a mandated policy that guides those procedures. The policy explains the reverse mainstreaming model, which maintains a significant number of non-disabled and general education students who serve as role models for students with identified special needs. The policy breaks down some of the procedures that will need to be put in place, such as communication with parents, the evaluation process, IEPs, transportation needs, reporting to the State Board of Education. The policy also discusses the tuition for non-disabled peers to attend preschool program. That's sort of like the general overview of the policy. Any questions? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, again, it kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, it kind of sounds like the SCAN school. The SCAN school model, because there's mostly disabled students there with a few mainstream students.
Yes, but this policy is, sort of flipping it a bit more and saying we want more mainstream students in the class to be role models for our students requiring special education services.
And we've had a significant years-long relationship with the Birth to Three program in the city of Bridgeport as well. So this is another one that we've actually been doing. It's just not codified. I just think it's very important to point out that these are things that are happening, even though it's not on paper. And this has been happening. I know the relationship with Birth to Three program has been since I've been on the board. And does this add any cost to the district? Because it seems like and there might be some additional identifications required. Additional identification.
With everything, that might be a possibility, of course, but the way this is, this particular policy is worded in terms of the reverse mainstreaming model. The fact that it's requiring more general education students who come in as tuition students will hopefully offset some of the costs that you were referring to.
And as far as we're talking about only students that are enrolled in our pre-K for tuition programs, PK 3, PK 4 programs, or we have to use the child fund for the entire Bridgeport population.
I think this is referencing students who are part of the Bridgeport public schools.
Because as we know, we're responsible for educating special education students who go to charter schools or other schools. We're responsible for funding special education costs, but this is not making us proactively go look at every single student, and because that would be an astronomical additional cost.
Right.
Not that the kids don't deserve these services, but it's always a concern. Thank you.
Seeing no questions or no hands, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve preschool special education policy number 6171.2 as discussed, as presented by Dr. Saki, with the waiver of the first and second read for immediate implementation.
I second that. Any discussion? Hearing none or seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none? Motion passes. We'll move this to the full board. Next on the agenda is item D, duty-free lunch, P4113.12.
Thank you. That's another mandated policy. Although we have collective bargaining agreements, based on our various contracts that address duty-free lunch. As a district, we do not currently have a district policy that addresses this. This mandated policy doesn't currently exist. Policy states that teachers and all certified staff will have a minimum of a 30-minute uninterrupted lunch period. Minimum of a 30-minute uninterrupted lunch period. This should be a policy. And it's a pretty straightforward policy about the students. Yeah.
Any discussions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Duty-free lunch policy P4113.12 as presented by Dr. Saki. A waiver of first read and a second read for immediate implementation, especially since we're already doing it over the past few years through our contractual obligations.
I second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Any opposed?
Passing.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is item E, physical exercise and discipline, P5144.4.
And thank you again. Yes, this is another mandated policy. We do not currently have a physical exercise and discipline policy. This policy focuses on encouraging students to have a healthy attitude toward exercise and promote a lifelong enjoyment of physical activity. It also discusses not using the loss of recess as a disciplinary action unless the student poses a danger to themselves or others, or if the student has another opportunity during the day to engage in physical activity. The policy also discusses how often recess can be restricted during the course of the week. The policy also states that physical activity cannot be used as a form of punishment. Any questions?
I think this is another one we've been practicing and through the restorative justice and through the ruler program that we've been really discouraging taking away recesses and all that already. District again, Bridgeport's a leader in this area. It's just not on paper. Where to find that?
I think, yeah, to your point, I think even in our code of conduct, we use other means to address negative behavior where it's not necessary. Something like taking away recess. We know that children do need physical activity.
It'll be interesting to look at all these other districts that actually have these policies in place. Are they actually following their policies rather than being backwards on behind on the policies? So you ready for the motion, Ms. Bowles?
Yeah, ready. Hearing no questions. Anybody else questions?
Motion to approve the physical exercise and discipline policy P5144.4 as presented by Dr. Saki this evening with the waiver of the first and second read for immediate implementation.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, that line F, we already did. And now it's our health and education program, P6142.10.
Thank you again. This is another mandated policy. The policy focuses on health education as an important part of the student's experience that prepares them for the future and helps them set positive lifestyle goals. Policy also includes educating students of the importance of making nutritious food choices and ensuring that the food served also has nutritious food choice options. This policy also has two versions. Version that we choose is open for discussion. Therefore,
To the gun. I need a motion. I need a version. It's them both of them over to the full board. I hate to do that.
So. Version one. Instance, was what I was leading towards when I first read through both. Again, I just thought, version one was cleaner. I think version one, as well as the state mandates, will probably all go onto 2 pages, and they still meet all of the requirements.
We'll go with version one. Questions, discussions? Joe?
Yeah, Sam, is there any material differences between the two of them?
Oh, the two.
And question was related to the policy, but the health education program and physical exercise. Whatever happened to the president's health initiative? I can't remember what was. I remember when I was in school,
President Kennedy.
we had gym basically a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
Now, some semesters, high school students, I know they don't have gym.
And at the high school level, it has to do with the amount of gym they have within the course of the year. It's a rated hour they need to have, whereas in K, it's more about making sure that
Yeah.
it's physically active. I'm at the high school level, I think it's more of a requirement that has to be met within the course of the year. As opposed to daily or regularly, like the elementary.
Because I was shocked when some didn't have gym one year. I was like, what? Yeah, but that's just a curiosity. It's irrelevant. I apologize. Nothing else. Oh, wait, which one you said?
Seeing no question, version one. Seeing no hands and no questions. I'll entertain your motion.
Motion to approve the health education program policy P6142.10. As presented by Dr. Sack, version one, as presented by Dr. Saki, for immediate approval with waiver of first and second reading.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Saki. Next on the agenda is to establish a timetable to adopt all mandate policies for the full board's approval. Again, to establish a timetable to adopt all mandated policies for full board approval. So, I know right now we carried on with 5 before, correct? That was the first one. Well, before was 5, and now there's 7. Okay, so we did right now, there's 12 that we did of the 28. So we still have another 16 to go for the 28. Yeah, the 28 mandated right now. Like I was discussed already with Dr. Saki and I, we're not going to be waiting so much as our scheduled board meetings, like on the second Wednesday of every month. But we're going to try to be very proactive that when the team has, we have discussed together that when the team has already gathered those policies and read them in its versions to which one works best for our district, to come forward and present them to me. That way I can put them and we can have a special meeting. Right now, we're looking at 54 minutes so far right now with some discussion, but we want to try to approve. Again, there's state mandates, folks, and board members, so we want to make sure that we can get them on there. If there's any time that we need to revisit them, that's the board's decision to do that, and we can make amendments to them if needed. But to have them is what we're going to make sure that we have them because they're state mandates. So so right now we need 16 more. What are we looking for time as far as, I don't know how many you guys already looked through, or not,
You know, I will, in terms of, a specific timeline, you know,
That's what Dr. Avery challenged us with, that we, and the board chair. That's what he challenged, to try to adapt. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr. Sagalovic? I see.
may I ask how long it took you to review these A through G?
you know, you know, because for every single one of these policies, depending on what you're going to do, you have to go through each policy and make any necessary notes. So each one does take some time. So I'm going to work as quickly as I can to get, Medina, policies as, we read through them, very often, with the policy, depending on, so if you notice, I had Dr. Fager here at some point in time, I might have the athletic director of food services, depending on the policy, and I'll still give a general overview, but the department that the policy is geared towards, I'll probably also have them here for any kind of clarifying questions or to fully expand on the policy. So, and all of that does take time. I've already given away several, or given several policies for initial reviews to certain departments.
Would, 6 policies every couple of weeks be too much?
Yeah.
And. I think you can get a couple more. You could get, I mean, the mandated policies that we're not changing, we're pretty much streamlined.
Yeah, there might be weeks of, for example,
Right, yeah.
I'll be on break and most likely reading policy during my break.
So we,
With that now, break. So I might come back and give him like all 15 by the time I come back.
yeah, that would be great. So, but we're
Most of
looking,
them done.
right, we're looking at the person from the state to get these things done. So-
Right, so that's,
So we got 18 left, so if we schedule 6, 12, 18, six at a minimum, every 2 weeks. Get them approved by the board at the next meeting, or even call a special meeting every now and then to, just pass policy purposes, because the full board is not going to, I don't think they're gonna go deep dive into this, the work's being done at this committee level. You're aware of the questions that are gonna be asked here. I'm relatively consistent with my questions. You know that you already know that we're gonna say if there's a name in there, we taking it out or whatever have you. Some of the stuff that we can change or whatever. And if we don't get to one, but there's adjustments on, we still got the other 5. So 6, 12, 18, 3 2-week period, a month and a half, another 2 weeks to get it on the regular board agenda to get the last ones there. We should complete the mandated ones in April, May, by June,
if not sooner. I mean,
if not soon.
my goal is to get you at least the mandated ones, ASAP, like, so at least those 18. And then, I mean, obviously, then there's the rest, but at least the mandated ones, my goal is to get those to you sooner or later.
So do we want to put dates on it, or do we want to put?
I mean, you can give us the date you was mentioned, but I'm not getting these before, that, but I'd like to do that.
So it's good to have a deadline by, because then we can fit in anything before, as long as we get it done by then. Or kind of like met our goal, because we put a certain week, then we're gonna put yourself in a tighter time schedule. When we can just, it could be 2 days after we hit that meeting, we can hit 7 or 8 of them that meeting and be done with it. So I think an end time would be a good one. So we want to hit, what, second week in June maybe, or what do you think of it?
I think by Joe's calculation, I think that's.
Yeah, it'll be before the school year's out.
Yeah.
Everything will be fresh for the next year, be able to update
So
them.
if everyone looks at the calendar, I'm looking at by June 13. That's a Friday, that's the second week in
Well,
June.
When the committee work done, when's the board meeting after?
All right.
that?
The board, my meeting will be the 11th. If somebody can check the board meeting. I would like to also acknowledge Jennifer Perez, board chair and committee member, is online with us. I'm Ms. Perez, just going over right now that to establish a timetable to adopt all the mandated policies. We're moving forward these 7 over to the full board, plus the other 2 for possible, consideration to bypass the first and second reading as their state mandates. So that would leave us with 16 more, Ms. Perez. And we're thinking of, having it done by the next committee, by the next board meeting of June,
Which was the 9th.
which should be the 9th. So then we'll be the first week of June, by June 6th, to complete these things. You there, Ms. Perez? Okay, she might have stepped up, but I know she is online.
I'm good.
Sorry, I'm here.
Um,
I couldn't get back. I couldn't hit mute, unmute. I was talking
Oh.
with it muted, sorry.
So did you get, right?
Yeah, I heard that part. So the mandated policies by June 9th, I think the
So I'm gonna
last,
say what, I'm sorry, Ms. Perez. It's, the regular board meeting is June 9th. So we're trying to get it before that. That way we have it for you, as chair of the board. That way the whole board could vote out by that date, June 9th.
and you said
so
you
our
want to
dead-
do 6
So
per
our
meeting?
deadline, will be June 6th. We're gonna have them done by June 6th. We might have them before that, but we're saying by June 6th. That way we meet the requirement to make sure that all of them have been moved to the full board by the June 9th meeting for you, just in case it might be, if you left, then it'll be done by the June 6th. That way the board can have it by June 9th. I think I'm making myself, I'm not sure. But
Yeah, but we have other committee meetings those weeks too. So like are you saying to add other special meetings?
well, we'll probably will, depending on the team having, their, policies. Like Mr. Saki and his team, he's gonna make sure that if any other team, within the administration team are experts in that field, he'll be with them, but he'll pass it to them to see if there's anything that, that they see that we need to add, whether it's a name of a particular department to add, or just Bridgeport Public Schools. Then they will send it to me because they already read it. They already, had their reading, and they see that it lines up with our district.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we discussed at the meeting the other night when we were discussing this was, when you set a goal like this, it has to be something that's attainable, and also like I know we can do it, but also is it reasonable for a staff member to go through all these policies while they're doing, this is not their only job.
I hear you.
Now I
That's
know,
why I put-
now I know, and I know that they have, they're delegating to other people probably to do this as well, but, to meet every, at this point, it would be every 2 weeks to get through some policy, 2 to 3 weeks to get these policies done on top of our trainings, on top of other committees that these
What-
staff members have to sit on as well. I
Well-
don't know if that's we talked
Again-
about them in, I know we talked, I'll finish my topic and then you can add on, but we talked about in the training that, something more reasonable might be through the end of summer. So it gives us time to really go through all these. We're going to implement them right away. We're going to bypass the first, second read. I mean, that's what we talked about on Monday. And I think most of the board was in agreement to that.
Okay, I haven't replied, but I'm gonna let Joe give his recommendation.
Yesterday, all your concerns were addressed with the committee. This is the committee work, the committee's commitment to get it done. We do have all these trainings. Yes, keep in mind, these trainings are special meetings. Don't have to wait for a regular meeting. We can have more than one agenda item on a special meeting. Dr. Saki has assured us he can do maybe more than 8 policies per meeting, but we stuck at 6 to be conservative in order to be able to get through the work. We've worked on this committee today before you arrived, A through G, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 policies pushed forward to the board within approximately 7 hours and 4 minutes. 1 hour in total of time. It takes Dr. Saki I take him at his word that he could do 6 without too much of a heavy lift, and especially because these are mandated policies that are not subject to too much change. So basically, we're following the state and asked us to have a timeline to get this work done, because we've got policies that have not been looked at in decades. We still got to go through the policies that haven't been revised since the 1990s. This policy committee did not meet and change one policy within the whole last year. So yes, it is an aggressive timeline, but it's in time, and it's work that's been left on our plate in the past that hasn't been done, and we need to get to it expeditiously. Yes, the policies, when we start looking at other policies where we do have leeway, we do need more time, we do need more discussion, but these policies are state mandated policies that we do not have, and until we bring ourselves in compliance, we are out of compliance with state statute, which is also known as a law. So we are currently in violation of the law until we pass these policies and incorporate them on thing. Now, if Dr. Saki has any issues, I'm sure he would have raised the committee.
And to that point, I don't know if you heard earlier, what I was trying to say and interject with you, Ms. Perez, is that I put it to Dr. Saki's table for them to give us a projected possible goal. And I think you just had came in maybe at the latter part of that. So this was a recommendation more from the administration side than us putting them on a schedule. But I would entertain Saki's opinion that we can share with you and us, Dr. Saki. Sorry, Dr. Saki, and then
He
we
doesn't
can
need to
go
say
from
anything.
there.
I get it. You're putting
From
him now in the
discussion.
position where he has to choose. That's not something he should be doing. So you can decide, you can make
Point
the
of
motion.
information.
Yeah.
It was Dr. Saki's recommendation in the first place before he was asked any question. Well, basically, I asked him how many you could do. So 6 would be realistic. We might be able to do 8. He said he might be able to take time over spring break and get more.
And what I decided at that point was not to put a bi-weekly or a date on next meeting, but instead put an end date. That way we can decide when we can meet and what we can be according to the work that he can present to me as chair to say that they're prepared. We don't want to do nothing like I spoke to him before, unless they're prepared to bring it to the full board or to me in this committee, that way we can move it to the full board. Because again, I want to make sure that the team is ready to present to us because they want to make sure they overview it per Dr. Avery's request and actually confirmed by Dr. Saki. So I'm not trying to put him on the spot. This is something that we've been discussing here at the team, and that's what we're going to decide to do. So I'll entertain a motion for a deadline to put these mandated, which we have a total of 16 left, correct? Dr. Saki? It was 28, correct? We did 5 with original 5, which the 2 were today, and we did another 7 today. So that'll be a total of 12. So minus 20 from 28 will be 16. Sorry, my math is always good, but I always confirm it with my paper. So
Put that on, just put the complete mandate.
yeah, by June 6th, I entertain.
I'll say if at any point in time we have to adjust, I will reach out.
We will adjust together. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Saki. I'll entertain any motion. Okay.
Motion to approve completion of the mandated policy at the committee level to bring to the full board prior to June 6th. That was the date.
June 6th. Yeah. Or for the June 9th.
Committee.
I second that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Oppose.
Any abstention? Motion carries. And I would entertain a motion that, anything else or point of information, actually. You had mentioned Dr. Hughes, Ms. Hughes, you had mentioned the tag before. We still have the tag program and I think, when are those applications going out? Will they have to apply
They've
for?
already been out.
The tag applications have been out? Is there a deadline?
Sure, the deadline. I can follow up with that though.
Okay, so possible deadline, you think And then, how many schools have the tag program right now?
3,
It's 3 schools?
Marin, Bataya, and Winchfield.
Yeah, and Lincoln. And it will be carrying on to the next school year, correct?
We're looking at tentatively changing the locations to
Oh, yeah.
later.
But the tag,
School in 3, yes.
to add or just to move the program to?
No, just so we can move the program locations, yes.
Okay. Is there anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion moves. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Woodson, Maritza, Chair. She already gone. Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Station.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Woodson. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Let me go.
We're off.